really thrilled and to have on our guest tonight, on our show tonight, a guest speaker that I think we all have been asking for and we have been waiting for. So, as we know, life is full of uncertainties, and these life uncertainties may end up leaving us very vulnerable. And I know have been left vulnerable. There are some that have had the experiences or have had family members that have been left in such vulnerable positions because of the life uncertainties. So tonight we have got on the talk show Mr. Jeff Madzingo, who is the CEO of Diaspora Insurance. Now, some of you have heard about this insurance company. They did come, I think, sometime a month ago during the Jar Praiser talk musical, and there were a few people that I know joined, and others have been asking questions and all that. So we've got the man himself tonight, and he's going to be telling us all about it. We also know that I think last year we talked about retirement, and people think when we start to talk about these things, we are talking about the old age. You know, when we have people coming into the hospital, the first hour they are in the hospital, we start to talk about their discharge. So that's the same in life. You know, the moment we are born, you've given birth to your child. You want to know that their future is in good hands. We have to start to think about tomorrow. So those are the life uncertainties that we are talking about tonight. And so kare hagare ari kare remangwana rinotoda kurongerwa. So that's why we are here tonight. So those who've got questions and you've got friends, family members that are planning on joining the insurance companies that are well suited for us as Africans as well. So here is the time. Tag a friend, come gather around here. Knowledge is power. So thank you so much again for joining in tonight. And so I'm going to take this opportunity to welcome Mr. Jeff Madzingo, currently in the UK, but he travels around. I know we met about last, I think, 2 months ago in September. So he does travel around. So I would like Mr. Jeff Madzingo to introduce yourself and tell us about what Diaspora Insurance is. And I will be guests coming in between and asking a few questions. But for now, can you tell us who you are so that people know that you are someone who's authentic? The company is authentic. They are not dealing with some other dubious people that would disappear into thin air. So thank you so much, Mr. Jeff Madzingo. I'll leave this time to introduce yourself and the company.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity, and also I want to thank you for the work that you do. This community work is very, very important in bringing us together as a people, and we are stronger bonded by our identity. So we thank you for the work. I'm Jeff Madzingo, and I'm the CEO for Diaspora Insurance. We've been operating going 12 years now, and over the years have grown into a multi-million-dollar company. We are headquartered in the UK, and Diaspora Insurance offers a bespoke product called the Diaspora Funeral Cash Plan. Diaspora Funeral Cash Plan. That's the bespoke product that we offer to the diasporans. So Diaspora Funeral Cash Plan is a product designed by diasporans for diasporans. And it's a very simple product that guarantees people is a celebrated life when your time comes. You are allowed on the product to cover yourself in the diaspora. You can also cover family back home. It may be your mom in Zimbabwe, in Kenya, in South Africa, or your sister in In Botswana, we allow you to cover family members wherever they are on the product. I would elaborate on how the product works, but is put simply, the bespoke diaspora funeral cash plan comes as a cash policy. It's a departure from the traditional funeral policies. The traditional funeral policies give you goods and services to say when the time comes, we'll give you this, we'll give you this. I will also be explaining why we moved away from the traditional funeral policy to giving people financial intervention. So, by way of introduction, I can say that's the introduction, and I will be here. I'll be explaining in detail how the product works, how people can benefit, and the key benefits on the cover. Yeah, and also, as part of my opening remark, let me take this opportunity to wish everyone a Merry Christmas coming and a prosperous 2024.
Thank you so much, Mr. Madzingo, for that opening time and explaining to us exactly, just in a nutshell, rather, what the diaspora insurance does and what you do and what you cover. And thank you for explaining that later on in the program, you are going to be pulling a few things apart so that we can understand it better. And of course, everyone will have the questions as to why diaspora insurance, why is it different from all the other insurances that we see that are being advertised? Why this one? Why is it tailor-made? And why you have moved away from the traditional way? And maybe explain further on what we call this departure plan, or whatever you're calling it. So, but then going back into the question, Mr. Madzingo, when was this company formed? I mean, I got to know of this about 3 months ago, right? But you are telling us you were formed some time ago. When was the Diaspora Insurance initially formed? How long have you been in operation for?
Yeah, we started diaspora insurance started covering diasporans in 2012. So our first clients were onboarded in April 2012. So April 2024 next year, we'll be clocking 12 years of serving the community. So we are talking of over a decade of delivering peace of mind to the wider community and changing people's realities. In terms of how the cover actually started, it was informed by quite a lot of things and personal tragedies, and also realizing how the community was suffering, how people were being swindled money when they try to form make informal arrangements like burial societies. And it was an informal, there were a lot of informal responses to a social crisis, because once like you rightly put there, once you are born, they say you begin to die the day you are born. You just don't know how
Yes.
long you have to live. So that's the reality of life, that will all come to pass. And the question becomes, when you come to pass, there are going to be funeral expenses, and those expenses are whose responsibility? The responsibilities. Do you want your family to suffer fundraising on the GoFundMe or through social media groups and stuff like that? So the policy was started in 2012 and has grown into a multi-million dollar operation, covering not just Zimbabweans. At the moment, we are covering 13 African nationalities wherever they are. That includes the likes of South Africa, Zambia, Botswana, Namibia, Malawi, Mozambique, Eswatini, going into East Africa, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Ethiopia, going into West Africa, Ghana. So wherever they are in the world, we are covering them. We are also widening our offering and opening to more nationalities globally. So next year is a very exciting year for us. We are launching new products. We are launching, we are expanding the proposition, because everywhere we go, people literally harass us to say, why are we not on the menu?
Okay. Now, thank you for explaining that. Now, 2012, you started this. Which country did you start this company in? I know you are based in the UK, and I remember the last time I spoke to you, you were on route to another country. So, where did you actually start this corporate?
Yeah, the company is headquartered in the UK, and
Okay.
the first nationality we started covering was Zimbabwe. We expanded to start covering Zambians worldwide. We expanded to add the other countries that I did mention. Next year, we are likely to be offering the cover to a lot more countries, more probably going more than 50 by next year.
Okay. No, thank you for highlighting that. Now you mentioned that this best cop funeral insurance. I think that's the one that we would like you to, and maybe before I go to that, we are still wanting to know more about this company. Now, do you have, because you had talked about having a few, so you've got satellites or you have opened, do you have offices? So, say here in Australia, do you have an office or do you have representatives that we would say, now I need to know more about the diaspora insurance? I want to join and take a funeral policy. Who do I get hold of? Do you have these countries that you've talked about that you have opened branches? Do you have specific individuals that are there representing diaspora insurance corporate?
Yeah, actually, we were in Australia beginning of November, not September. So we did a countrywide tour with the musicals in Melbourne. We went to Sydney, we went to Perth. And the part of the agenda for the Australian tour was to establish operations. We got quite because the way the product works is very simplified, and already we've helped quite a lot of clients in Australia. We got a lot of clients in Australia already even before the tour, and we've helped the bereaved families in Australia as well. And they have used the opportunity to do burial in Australia. Some have opted to do repatriation. So it's part of why we do this policy as a cash cover. But part of the tour was also to establish those relationships, and also this interview also creates an opportunity for anyone listening who is interested in serving the community to get in touch with the Diaspora Insurance and with their opportunities to get yourself as a sales executive with the Diaspora Insurance, so that you can also distribute the cover. Because our cover comes very, very simply. It's a guaranteed acceptance policy. We don't want to know your body mass index. We don't want to know any medical history. We don't want to know no family medical history. It's a guaranteed acceptance policy. So to onboard someone or to sign up someone, it's a very, very simple process. So we are offering opportunities for people who are based in Australia, who are interested in sales, not only interested in sales, but changing the realities of the people and supporting the community by distributing the cover, so that we rescue each other from this nightmare of breathing and begging every time there's a funeral. So at the moment, we have set up a small team in Australia, which we are growing, and there's an opportunity to grow that team. We want representation in every part of Australia, so that people can easily reach out. But in terms of support, it's almost neither here nor there. People can be supported by the head office in the UK, and you get your support just seamlessly flowing, whether it's on taking the cover, whether it's a claim. It's the process works very well, and we have experienced the and offered the whole smoothened the whole process over the years. So support is available, but also this is an opportunity for people interested in sales to join our team and change the reality of our people.
Thank you so much, Mr. Madzingo. You mentioned something there which I will touch on a bit later. But to other viewers out there, you heard Mr. Madzingo, he's also asking, and applications are open to those that are looking for work in his company as sales representatives for the Diaspora Insurance. You've heard it's quite a legit company or corporate, I would like to call it. It's quite a big company, multi-million dollar company, which has been in operation for now almost 12 years, having its headquarters in the UK. And as he was saying, they have already started to, especially this, as he was saying, here in Australia, there has been clients that have already used this policy, and both home and both here in Australia and repatriation of body back home. So it's not something that we should be worried about. So there are people here, and there's a team already, like he said, that is already on the ground. Now, Mr. Madzingo, is this team based in Melbourne, or are they scattered in different states?
Yeah, at the
Or
moment, at the moment we've got representation in Melbourne, we've got representation in Sydney, in Perth, and we are open to applications coming through for people who want to work with us. There are different opportunities. There are opportunities for people who just want to help with making sure that the community is conscientized, they are aware of the product, and they can benefit from the cover. And they just want to say, I went to church today, and I met 10 people who are interested in the cover. Here are the names and numbers. We call those the introducers, and they get paid for their work of introducing people who are interested in the cover to the company. If you want the next level, is people who are sales executives who are trained to advise, and are competent advisors on the product, and they can do more work by advising and onboarding clients, and we call those sales independent sales executives. There are also opportunities for people who are in who have got a big network in the community to work as our brand ambassadors or influencers. So we've got a lot of opportunities in the company, and the good thing is you are not just focusing on the Zimbabweans only. You are focusing on a lot of other nationalities, which can give you a really big wide reach in terms of building your portfolio.
okay. Now, thank you so much. That has been quite made clear to those that are out there and are also wanting job opportunities with this multi-million dollar company. Mr. Madzingo is saying there are applications are open for sales reps, just looking for people, introducing them. You get paid for that. And then independent sales executives, you are now informing and advising. And then, of course, if you want to be a brand ambassador and you know you've got a large network of people, there is an opportunity for you. So there you are, for those that are willing and are needing to do that. His number is going to be put on the talk show, and you can call him, or you can do that through Mbuya vaRaphy as usual. My contacts you have, and I will be passing on the information to him. So thank you so much for that. Now, what we are going to do, we've heard about these the company and what it looks like, and maybe just before we go on our break, Mr. Madzingo, how many roughly employees do you have now in the company?
Employees, we got lots of employees because we got different type of different levels. We've got departments, we've got the management, we've got the board, we've got the sales team. We've got our biggest team is probably the sales team, because it's got people who are based full time in the call center supporting sales. Then we've got people who are based in the field in different countries: Australia, Germany, France, UK. We've got sales reps all over Austria. So the sales team is quite big. Then we also have the claims department, the customer care team, business development, marketing, we've got media team. So it's quite a big team.
Yes.
And yeah, we have grown into a very big team. And I would say if you include everyone working on the product, you're going into hundreds, more than 100.
Okay. All right. No, thank you so much. I guess the reason I'm asking is sometimes people want to know, and it just gives them that confidence of what we are talking about here. We are not just talking about someone who's just got out of behind some bush and started some dubious company, but we are talking about a multi-million corporate here that has done a lot to improve the lives of diasporans in different countries. And I liked what you said, the term that you used today, the informal responses when we are faced with death within our communities and within our family. We've got a very informal responses that we do. And so to avoid those, and you did mention grieving and begging. So we want to avoid the grieving and begging a problem that arises when we are seen with these uncertainties of life. So thank you so much for telling us about what the company is and how big it is and what you are doing. And so we will take a short break, and we'll come back. And as we are coming back, I guess what I would like to hear from you, Mr. Madzingo, and is about this departure plan, and why you moved away from the traditional plan, and explain a bit more about this plan you were talking about.
Yeah,
And yeah,
that's fine.
thank you. We'll take a short break and we'll be back.
Thank
Keeping it real, real, real.
Mbuya vaRaphy.
Diaspora Insurance. Peace of mind guaranteed.
Merry Christmas from Mbuya vaRaphy.
Keeping it real, real, real.
Mbuya vaRaphy.
Hi, my name is Nano, and what I enjoy about Christmas is spending time with my family and celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ. Also, the presents are an added bonus. My name is Shinget, and what I like about Christmas is spending time with my family and friends and enjoying yummy food. I also like receiving gifts. Thank you so much for listening.
Personally, I think that Christmas is about
Welcome back to the second segment of this talk show tonight. We've got our guest, Mr. Jeff Madzingo, who is the Chief Executive Officer, CEO for the Diaspora Insurance Company or corporate. Now, before the break, we were talking, or he was just giving us a brief summary of what the company is like, and when it was started, and how many employees they've got, and how many branches they've opened. So thank you so much for highlighting that for us, Mr. Madzingo. Now, as I did ask before the break, that we would like us to get you to explain to us, because I know a few of the audience out there will be asking, what is this departure plan that you were talking about? And if we can go a little bit deeper into that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, I did mention that the diaspora funeral cash plan is a departure from the traditional funeral policies, and the key message there is that the diaspora funeral cash plan was designed by diasporans for diasporans. So it speaks to the needs of the diasporans. There are sometimes when you take financial products that end up not working harder for the provider instead of working harder for the client. So I'm talking of value of money. When the value of money that you get on the product is not good enough, or you end up getting nothing, we say that the product that you were sold was not correct, the product was not suitable. And those are issues that we have seen happening quite a lot, especially in the funeral insurance space, involving diasporans. Diasporans, by definition, are people of transnationality. We are people who belong to more than one nation, one society. And that transnationality creates a kind of a serious problem when it comes to the suitability of the covers that we may take and have over time. Because when you take a cover, especially for a funeral insurance, eh, you need to consider not just the now. You need to consider the tomorrow, short term, mid term, long term. How is this going to work for me if this happens? Create scenarios in the future that may happen. And if those scenarios look like they are not being covered by the proposition on the table, it means that you have a problem. So the departure that we did with the diaspora funeral cash plan is to say that as diasporans, we are transnational citizens. We belong to more than one nation. The reality of our location, the reality of our choice over time is not fixed. It tends to be fluid. You find that one is in the UK, you find an opportunity in Australia, you relocate to Australia. You find that you are in Australia, and you take a funeral policy that says when you die, we will take your body to Zimbabwe or to Kenya, we'll give you a tent, we'll give you a bus, we'll give you this and that in Zimbabwe. But is that the is that a fixed position over time? As diasporans, when we begin to lose parents back home, you lose the siblings back home. If you are blessed with a long life, all what you have is now you are a grandparent in the diaspora, you have got grandchildren in the diaspora, and this whole the emotional fixation about being taken home dies away. This is you now in your 80s or 90s. You realize that I'm no longer going to be taken home. You spend all your life paying for a bus or a tent or a generator back home. So what we said is we want transnational citizens to have a cover which is equally transnational, a cover that knows no border, a cover that can be used in any country. Whether you choose to be taken back home, use the same cover. If you choose to be buried abroad, use the same cover. If you choose cremation, use the same cover. If there is a situation that it's a missing person presumed dead, family will still need to do a ceremonial send off. Maybe they need to travel to the site where the plane may have crashed or whatever would have happened in the situation of presumed missing presumed dead. You still need to have some expenses. So how do we address that situation where things are fluid? Things right now, a lot of first generation migrants would be thinking, if I die, I want to be taken to Zimbabwe. That may change over time, and when that changes, you don't want to be left in a situation where you realize you wasted money or your working life paying for a policy that will not work. You will relocate either on holiday or you relocate permanently, or by the time someone who is in Australia now retires in your 70s, 80s, you may find that you live with your child in Florida, USA, or you find yourself on holiday in Greece, something happens there. You want a cover that works for you from anywhere in the world, and it makes sure that your wishes as at the point of claim are honored, not somewhere where you are fixed to a bus in Zimbabwe or a generator in Zimbabwe where you end up not going there. So we say cash knows no border. Therefore, the cover that can give people certainty And a protection without borders is a cash cover. We want a cash cover, and we want the cover to be in hard currency so that long-term people's cover value is more certain. So there are other points which feed to the reason why we do a cash cover, but for now, those are the key. That's the key point about a transnational cover for transnational citizens, a worldwide protection without borders cover for diasporans. That's what a cash cover does for you. And in any case, if you come to think of it, I think we have all seen situations where families have got a bereavement, someone has died, there's no policy. And I can bet to my last cent, I've never seen a single appeal case where people appeal to say, we've got a bereavement, we don't have a policy, can someone help us with a coffin? There's never a situation where someone appeals for a coffin. Why do we appeal for cash? Because once we have cash, you can do anything, whether you want to take your loved one back home, or they want to be buried abroad, or whatever, you are sorted. So we want to say, take a cover that works for you today, take a cover that works for you tomorrow, short term, mid term, long term, irrespective of your relocation or irrespective of your change of choice in terms of how you are going to be sent off or where you are going to be sent off.
Wow. So to our viewers out there, I think this is what we need. And if you've got a family or a friend that has not tuned here, please can you tag them? This is so important. Like we said, we are trying to move away from the problem that we mentioned earlier about the informal responses that we are getting, informal responses that are happening every now and then when we have a loved one pass away because we have not made plans well ahead of time. We have been ill informed. So today we are being informed. And we said, like I said on the ad, knowledge is power. When you have knowledge, you can make an informed decision. Thank you so much, Mr. Madzingo. I liked that this funeral cash plan you talked about how it is it's a transnational cover, and irrespective of which country you are. And I think this is so important for us, especially for myself. I'm the first generation. And so definitely we are being caught with being undecided. You have Mbuya vaRaphy saying, I want to be buried here in Australia because that's where my grandchildren are. And then you have Sekuru vaRaphy saying, I want to go home. So there you are. Which policy then is going to be good for us there? Would you be able to help such a couple, Mr. Madzingo, who are divided in terms of where they want to be buried?
Yeah, exactly. Very, very good question and very good point there. The issue with the diaspora funeral cash plan also is that it comes with the flexibility and versatility to give you complete control. It gives you complete control. On the same policy that Mbuya vaRaphy is covered. Sekuru vaRaphy is covered on the same policy for cash cover. The cash cover for Baba vaRaphy can be used to take him back home if that's his wish, and assuming the wish doesn't change over time. Then the same cash cover that is covering Mbuya vaRaphy can be used to send off Mbuya vaRaphy in Australia when the time comes. So you see the flexibility that comes with the cash. There's no limitation to say that we are covering you on this cover, and if you come to pass, we'll take your body to Zimbabwe, we'll take your body to Kenya or Australia. We are saying to the clients, you need a cover that speaks to your reality as an individual. Your reality is that you are a transnational citizen. You belong to more than one nation. Your reality is that your location is not permanent. It may change either due to traveling on holiday, or maybe you are relocating permanently, or you are relocating in retirement to live with your granddaughter or your daughter in Australia, in New Zealand, or you in UK, or maybe in Florida or in USA. So you never know where life will take you. But what we are saying, we don't want your relocation to invalidate your cover. We don't want this vaRaphy's choice of being taken home to be invalidated by the fact that you have now decided to be buried in Australia. Or even vice versa. Mbuya vaRaphy then decides to say, I want to be taken home as well. You should be able to use the same cover without feeling the pinch of being asked to say, if you want to do that, then now your cover doesn't work, or you need to top up 20,000, you need to top up this, because that's the other problem that we face with these goods and services policies.
Yes.
The question
Yes.
of people being asked to top up money all the time because they are on the wrong cover, and what they need when the day comes is not fully covered. Then you are asked to top up this, top up. Before you realize, you are more like buying a new policy completely. But with a cash cover,
Yes.
you know your cover is value, you know your cover value, and the value is more guaranteed. I would say, imagine, or maybe I've touched enough on the question of Mbuya vaRaphy and Baba vaRaphy,
Mm.
Sekuru vaRaphy wanting to have different options. So that's how it will work. With the cash cover, it doesn't matter. You have your option now, you can change your option tomorrow, you can flip flop on your options, you still using the same policy, same cover.
Okay. Now, thank you so much for that explanation. And just to know that this cover is so flexible, I liked that. And I think people out there are finding, or as I'm just saying, that I think it's a cover that if you did not have, you need to start to consider to take this cover. Because as you were explaining, Mr. Madzingo, I know that there has been issues where, or instances where someone had a funeral policy, and at the time that they were going to claim, there were a few things that they had not disclosed, rather, or the changes in circumstances. There were changes in circumstances, very small changes, which actually did affect the policy. And so they were asked to top up, as you are saying. That's a reality that actually happens with some of these policies. And so they ended up topping up. And as they were explaining, it was as good as starting all over again. So I think there we are here. We've got the CEO himself explaining these. And if we've got any questions in the audience, either on Facebook or on the platform here on Zoom, please, excuse me, feel free. We've got our moderators out there that are going to be taking these questions, and they'll be forwarding them straight to my text messages. And to those that have my contact details, and maybe you might be a little bit shy to put your questions there, please forward your questions directly to my inbox. Those who have my text, my mobile number, send in your questions, and we can ask as anonymous to Mr. Madzingo here, so that we can get all the questions that we had answered. So thank you so much for that, Mr. Madzingo. Now, what I was going to ask next was,
Yeah,
you did.
if I could, sorry, if I could just add on that, on why the cover is cash as well, over and above what I've
Yes.
explained already, because it's a very critical thing that people are used to funeral policies coming as goods and services to say that when you die, we'll do this for you, we'll do this for you. But the departure from that was really important, because like I said, it's a cover designed by diasporans for diasporans. The other things to consider over and above the issue of transnationality, ourselves as diasporans being transnational citizens and taking a transnational policy that cash knows no border, therefore it's a worldwide protection without borders. The other thing to consider is the value of your cover over time. That is a very, very important fact, especially from what Mbuya vaRaphy is saying there. that people are being asked to top up, people are being asked to almost like you are starting afresh. That happens because imagine, let's go back a couple of years back. Let's assume this is 1990, and the Mbuya vaRaphy decides to take a cover for 10,000 or say 20,000 US dollars or Australian dollars. Baba vaRaphy, Sekuru vaRaphy takes a cover which promises them an executive casket, and they are promised will do this for you, will do this for you. 30 years down the line now, Mbuya vaRaphy knows exactly that she's covered for 20,000 US dollars. Sekuru vaRaphy, the executive casket or whatever they were promised in 1990. Hardly no one knows what it was. And hardly all those things that they were promised in 1990 are out of fashion. That's where you go to
Yes.
the funeral directors for the funeral, and you are told to top up this, top up if you want this, top up this, before you realize you are buying a new policy from afresh. It's because the certainty of value, when you are promised the goods and services, the certainty of value over long term is not clear. You are not clear. Give it 30, 40 years from now, you don't know what you bought. And you will be asked to say, if you want this, we will top up this. If you want this, top up this. If you want to top up this. Then the other issue to consider, when a bereavement happens, the funeral directors tend to focus on the actual burial, providing of the coffin, the actual hearse and casket for the burial, and then they finish there. Is that where the funeral expenses finish? There are loads of expenses to do with family travel. Whether you want to be buried in Australia, you may find the family members having to travel from back from your country of origin. It may be Kenya, it may be South Africa, it may be Zimbabwe, coming to the funeral in Australia, or vice versa. Then you also have a lot of expenses that relate to issues of once you food, church service, flowers, photography, videography, the opportunity cost of running a funeral until it's finished. You can't be going to work when you've got a funeral. You lose a spouse, you are almost going to lose a month or more than a month of going to work. If you are on agents, pay earn as you work, it means all that time you are not earning any money. And that's an opportunity cost that is coming with the funeral. All the bills that are accumulating, hosting people for prolonged funeral vigils. Then you also have the expenses of after the funeral. Even the most disorganized family, after the funeral, they will have a meeting to say, when do we do memorial? Who is going to pay for the memorial? If you are a diaspora and traveling, maybe going back home for the memorial, or arranging for people to come abroad for the memorial, you also have the cost of after the memorial, when are we doing tombstone ceremony? Who is going to pay for the tombstone and the ceremony, the cost of the ceremony itself? So all those are expenses that are not covered on the traditional funeral policy. But if you are on a good cash cover, those expenses will be covered, and you know that you are covering all the expenses. And the other factor to consider why we departed from traditional funeral policies is the issue of children. You find someone in Australia, a couple in their 40s or 50s, young children who are under 15 or under 20, and they are on a policy that say when we die, we will be taken to Zimbabwe, or we will be taken to Kenya, we will be taken to Australia. That may never work. It may work for you as a first generation migrant, but the children you are bringing up in the diaspora, they don't belong back home. Emotionally,
Yes.
they just don't belong back home. So beyond you, the chance of them being repatriated is zero. So you kind of wasting money putting people on the wrong cover that will never work for them. So that's the problem that people face, that when you take a policy, you're not considering the reality to say that these children I'm bringing up in UK, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, who have hardly been back home maybe once in 15 years, will they be repatriated to Zimbabwe or to to Kenya or to Mozambique? No. So why are you putting them on the wrong cover? Why are you wasting money putting your children on the wrong cover? When you do these financial products, you need to be creating intergenerational financial security. You can't be creating intergenerational financial security by taking wrong products that don't work for you, don't work for your children. Some funeral directors, they have tried to innovate to say, yeah, we can do We can offer cover from abroad for the diasporans and do this, but it will never work perfectly for us as diasporans because we are transnational. We belong to more than one society. We want a cover that is completely flexible and completely versatile so that we can have an intergenerational financial security. I can't give my children, like myself, all my children were born in the UK. I can't give them financial security by taking a cover for them that when they die, they will be buried in Zimbabwe. They will never go there. They don't belong there. In as much as I
Okay.
try to take them home quite frequently. So that's the issue. People need to consider what will happen if a situation like this happens. Bring the future into the present so that you create scenarios and then interrogate the option that you are looking at. Am I wasting money or I'm not wasting money? And the good
Wow.
news with Australia also is that we have had feedback from Australia that the 20,000 Australian dollars that we are offering is not enough for Australia if you want repatriation, especially also if you want repatriation. So in the first quarter next year, we are just working on our rates. In the first quarter next year, the cover available to people in Australia is increasing from 20,000 to 50,000. So you'll be able
Wow.
to cover yourself for 50,000 each life.
Wow. Hey, thank you so much,
Mm.
Mr. Jeff Madzingo, there for explaining explicitly, about what this entails, because there is so much misinformation out there that is going around, and you coming here and explaining it in such great depth is really good for us. And it's been quite informational. So now I've got a question. I've got two questions that have come up from the audience.
Yeah.
And the first one, I guess, is you did talk about covering the funeral policy to cash plan that covers people going to Zimbabwe. Now, I
Hmm.
think they have had an experience where a body has been repatriated back home, and upon arriving at home, they have been asked now by the funeral director of the company here, right, to then look for
Hmm.
another um, a funeral cover in Zimbabwe to take the body to the place where it was meant to go. So, for example, they are giving an example here where they had to take the body to Mutare from Harare. So, this company they
Hmm.
got here, or the policy they got, only covered up until the airport in Harare. And then after that, they are no longer responsible. So this particular family had now to fork in and bring another policy, get another policy to cover them from the
Hmm.
airport to Mutare to the burial home. Now, can you explain
Hmm.
that? How different is this from your one that you offer?
Yeah, it's a very critical, good point as well. And again, it goes back to the issue of financial intervention and giving families capacity to give their loved one a dignified send off, avoid a situation of grieving and begging, and focus on celebrating someone's life. And in a situation like that, if someone is on a cover for, say, 50,000 Australian dollars, that money should be able to cover the repatriation, if that is the choice, the repatriation from Australia all the way to the burial and covering the expenses for burial. So that's the essence of a cash cover, that where there will be expenses to be paid for, and you've got the money to pay for those expenses. So we are not
Okay.
leaving families exposed to say your policy only works up to here. Your policy can only cover you, but there's no money for food, there's no money for travel, there's no money for memorial service. So it's about taking the correct cover. If you are on a cash cover, take the correct cover. Our advisors are very competent and highly trained. They will advise you on the correct cover depending on your choices. And not only choices, because we've got a financial responsibility to make sure that you are also taking a cover that is affordable. So there's an
Yes.
issue of affordability as well. So we assess, give you the option, say what is your budget and what is affordable. Then you take a correct cover. So in that situation, if the good cover, cash cover, they will pay for everything all the way, no issues. And by the time the body is repatriated to Zimbabwe, there should be a funeral directors clearing the body at the airport. And you do those options before you even leave Australia, UK, Canada, USA. You already know who is going to clear the body, and then they do the documentation in Zimbabwe. Then you pay for them to do the actual transfer from the port of entry to the burial place, and then the actual burial. So if you've got cash, enough cash, all those things are very simple and easy to manage. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That has been really made clear. And they just texted me back to say, thank you, Mbuya vaRaphy. That has been made quite clear. And the other question I've got there as well is, and they're not quite sure. Thank you, moderator, for bringing the question along, because I'm not able to see what's happening on Facebook, but this has come from Facebook. And they are saying a great explanation. Maybe I missed it. How does the cash policy take care of inflation? Thank you.
Yeah, the way, it's a very good question and very informed question as well, because over time, the time value of money matters. That's so. What we do, there are two options that we can do. One option is that we do what is indexation, where we give a policy amount and the premium that it tracks inflation. So if the inflationary loss of value in a year is the 5%, your policy cover goes up 5%, your premium goes up 5%. But we didn't opt for that option. Why? Because it creates uncertainty. Some people have got marginal budgets in the diaspora. If you are paying $50 or 100 Australian dollars, you want to know that I'm paying 100 Australian dollars full stop. To say every year you find your premium is going to 110, the following year it's going to 120, the following year it's going to 130. Some people may not like that because it creates uncertainty of budget. So instead of doing an indexation of the cover amounts, what we opted to do is that our advisors are trained and competent to say that if you are in this age range, God for based on life expectancy, if you are blessed with long life and you come to pass, then your policy, if you take a policy cover amount of so much, that should do for you. So the point is that the younger you are, the higher cover amount you should take, because then it can time value of money, it can work you for the long term. And the older you are, the more expensive the premiums are, and therefore we would also recommend that you keep your cover amounts lower so that it's affordable, and also it talks to the issue of life expectancy. Over time, if things really change drastically, which we don't anticipate with these green basket currencies, because we only cover people in hard currencies. So, but over time, if things change drastically, like we have done reviewing Australia now to say we were giving maximum cover of 20,000. But in Australia, feedback is that 20,000 may not be enough, and we have seen GoFundMe cases where people were asking to raise even higher than 50,000. Uh, so we can review over the long term to say the cover amounts that we were capping for 20,000 is no longer adequate. The cover amount we were capping at 50,000 is no longer adequate. Let's open up, increase the cover amount, and give people an opportunity to increase their cover. Then people can make an informed decision rather than having a cover that you don't know how much will I be paying next year. That uncertainty on your budget, we don't want it, and it creates problems for our clients. So we would rather people are on the correct cover based on age. Then after some years, we say, if you want to top up your cover, we are now increasing maximum cover. If it's pounds to 25,000 pounds, if it's euros to 25,000 euros, if it's Australian dollars, maybe move from 50 to 70, whatever the case may be. But we work with our clients. This is a common solution for the common good of every diasporan. When we started the cover, we did say that we are creating a solution for the common good of everyone, and we want that to be the case, always making sure that people are getting a fair deal, people are getting a suitable cover, people are getting a correct cover, people are getting value for their money. That is what drives us. The way we work as a war team is that this cover was developed coming from experiencing personal tragedies in the diaspora, and also realizing how much the community was suffering. So it's a
Yes.
cover that we work on so passionately. To us as a whole team, it's not just the work. We look at the way we are serving the community, the impact of the cover on the community. We look at it as a calling. It's a calling. It's not just work that we are
Yes.
doing. So,
Thank you
so we
so
are
much.
really available for our clients.
Thank you so much, Mr. Madzingo. You nailed it there. It's a calling. When you start to work with people and you get emotionally involved in their grieving, their loss, it becomes quite a journey. It becomes a ministering thing. So thank you. And so we are going to take a short break. And when we come back, Mr. Madzingo, I would like us to touch on maybe just briefly and tell us how much is the smallest amount of premiums that one, because you talked about this diaspora funeral policy cash plan was made by the diasporians for diasporians. And you know, especially now, it's a world thing that we are really struggling financially. And so if you could maybe when we come back from the break, give us not exactly, but something that people can think, oh, I think I can afford this. You know, the smallest amount of the premiums per month and what they cover briefly, and the highest and what that has. And yeah, so to our viewers out there, thank you for tuning in, and we will come back and hear more. But something to think about, the first generations, I think we are the most that are really finding it difficult to settle. We feel like we belong here. The next minute, we feel like we want to go and be buried home. Circumstances are changing every day. And like we said, you know, the reality of our circumstances are fluid. And so we need to realize that as we get older, I'll tell you, when I had my grandchildren, yes, mom is still here and she's on this talk show. I'll say hello to her later. But, you know, she's still there. But God forbid, if she is still around and if I die first, she will have to come here to bury me, because I'm not going back home. I've got my kids here, my grandkids here. So everybody's decision is different. And what we also need to realize as a people is that to respect each other's views. You know, Zimbabweans, let's move away, or Africans, let's move away from this whole idea of saying, mfana utenda kumusha, you should go back home and you can't be buried here. No, let's respect each other's decision. Now that we've got this policy that is a transnational cover for us as transnational citizens, you can choose this plan. So you don't even have kuti mupopotedzane mumba muchiti hey yo wakutora cover iyi ninda. You don't even have to argue. You just have to go under this one cover, which will cover your desires. You know, your wishes at the time of death are covered. So that's the beauty of this cover. And so remember, fixation will die. Like we said, emotional fixation will die. So if you've taken your cover with some other plan that is back home, I'm not saying it's bad, it's okay. But once that emotional fixation dies, you discover that you have wasted money because you now want to be buried here. And so let's be well informed and take covers that are flexible, right? Irrespective of where we are going to be when we die. So let's take a short break. And if you've got a friend or a family member that hasn't tuned in, please tag them and tell them to come and listen to this. We said knowledge is power. You can only make an informed decision if you've got enough knowledge. So let's take a break and we'll catch up with you after this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Keeping it real.
Mbuya vaRaphy.
Insurance. Peace of mind guaranteed.
Easy Crew Entertainment.
Thank you so much, and welcome to our third segment rather, of the talk show tonight. And tonight, I know it sounds a little bit scary for others. I was speaking to one of my colleagues, and they were saying, vaRaphy, it's just scary to talk about death. It's very scary, and but it is the reality of things. We have to talk about death. It's the reality of it, and we can never avoid it. So we have to talk about it. We have to plan it. If you hadn't started, start today. You need to call someone, get an insurance, a policy cover, a funeral cover. We do not want to get into the what Mr. Madzingo referred to as as grieving and begging problems, right? We want to be able to celebrate lives of our loved ones when they die, or you want them to celebrate your life when you die, rather than to start thinking about getting and some money, some funding to bury you or to take you home or whatever it can be. And also, by the way, it is quite expensive, I understand. And that's one question we are going to ask Mr. Madzingo here. How much roughly is it to bury someone here? It is quite expensive, I hear. And it's not something that you would think you could do with your savings. You'd rather save your savings for something else and be well informed. All right, so we are coming back, Mr. Madzingo. And like I said, if you could give us a bit of a rundown about the covers and how much premiums one is expected to pay from the lowest to the highest.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think you did touch a very important point there about people saying we don't want to talk about death. And in the African culture, it tends to be not an issue for a topic for the dinner table or a topic for the lounge or any. People avoid it. And that
Yes.
always gets us into problems. There is nothing more certain than the fact that it will come to pass. So when people avoid it, why people avoid it and make it a taboo subject, sometimes it's because people have got this belief that if you talk about it, it will happen. I want to say now, there's no single person who will die earlier, or there's no single person who will postpone their death or die earlier by a policy, or postpone their death by not taking a policy. It's just a failure of planning. Planning is about bringing the future into the present and crafting solutions while least you can, rather than leaving it and assuming that nothing will happen. Something will happen eventually. No one will live forever. Worldwide, we lose over 350,000 people on a daily basis. So there's nothing to believe that you can avoid death by not talking about it. It's just, don't talk about it as death. Talk about it as planning, bringing the future into the present, crafting solutions for the long term. And this belief that death happens next door is wrong as well, because to God, next door may be your door. Next door may be your door. So don't think that you will visit them, will give them a small token, 20 Australian dollars, and we are done. One day you will be the recipient of that small token. So let's
Yes.
plan ahead and accept that if something happens when there is no plan, you are going to cause your family problems. Imagine your children being pulled out of of school, or even say your spouse being taken off work, and to say we have lost someone. Then they come back and someone asks, how did it go? How was the send off? And it turns out that nothing has happened because there's no money. The GoFundMe is not working. It's not generating enough money. How much more pain do you want to cause your family? Losing someone is tragic enough. To be reduced to a beggar is double tragedy. So
Yes,
please, there's no
and I
need for
think,
that.
and while you are still on that, I guess, Mr. Madzingo, before you go into explaining to us the premiums and everything, while we are on that subject of how we as Africans really are avoiding this issue on death, we should not be avoiding talking about death, because death is a reality. It will
Mhm.
knock honestly on our doors, and we do not know when. At any time it can knock. And I think that's where it's also important, because we have people that are saying, oh, I'm fit, I'm healthy, I'm not going to die. I will talk about funeral policy when I get a bit older. And then it catches up with you. And because life is full of uncertainties, which we were talking about, leaves the whole family very vulnerable, leaves your friends very vulnerable, because they were very close to you. Now you are meant to be the one going around and begging so that we can get money to bury you.
Mhm.
And yet we have people that are slaying on Facebook, Mr. Madzingo, that are slaying on WhatsApp, on Instagram, you name it, they are slaying and wearing expensive Gucci's and clothes and suits and driving very expensive cars, but they have no insurance, funeral covers. So I think we
Correct,
need
yeah.
to have a second think about this, especially after going through the premiums. At least sacrifice however much you can. If you can drive an expensive car, if you can live in an expensive mansion, if you can live wearing Gucci clothes and perfumes and suits, then at least have the dignity to respect yourself when you die, so that you can be buried with dignity and respect. It's just me, Mbuya vaRaphy, here, keeping it real as usual. If we don't say it here, I'm allowed to say it, and I'll say it as it is. Let's avoid the embarrassment. Let's avoid leaving ourselves vulnerable. Let's stop slaying on Facebook and all these social medias. Tisina ma-funeral policy. Ngatitorei ma-funeral policy. Simele ukuthi sithathe ama-funeral policy lawo. Asifuna abantu abazawufe ukuthi befe bengela funeral policy. So I will say it in all the three languages so that it's loud and clear. Thank you, Mr. Madzingo. I'll leave this time to go for you to go through the
Okay.
premiums.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, the premiums for the diaspora insurance are very, very simple, and because it's a guaranteed acceptance policy. Guaranteed acceptance policy is very important, and it distinguishes this policy from life cover. Life cover, I will explain the difference between life cover and funeral policy, because there are a lot of professionals out there who have got life cover and they think they are sorted. This cover comes guaranteed acceptance, no medicals on application, no medicals on claim. Therefore, on claim, all we need is proof of death, and within 24 hours, for the past 12 years, within 24 hours, your monies are settled. You get your money is wired to your bank account. That takes away completely the bigger pain when you lose someone of saying, how are we going to fund this? And people then focus on celebrating. You can't celebrate someone's life when one eye is on the GoFundMe, or one eye is on the book that is recording people who are visiting to pay their respects, to say how much did they put, how much did they put. You can't talk of celebrating someone's life in those situations. So I want to come back to explain the difference between funeral insurance and life cover or life insurance. But talking about the premiums, when someone goes through the office and they speak to our advisors, they walk you through all the options. When they walk through the options, it's to assess affordability, to make sure that you go on a cover that you can comfortably afford. We don't want you to end up with a cover so big that so heavy on your budget that you can't buy milk for your children because you are paying funeral insurance. We want you to take a cover that is affordable and sustainable on your budget going forward. But like I said, our cover is very simple, very cheap. I'll give you examples of different ages, and I'll give you examples based on the Zimbabwe rates, so that we've got because by and large most of the listeners are Zimbabweans, although this cover is not necessarily for Zimbabweans alone. So if you take a child who is 15 years old and you say what I can afford is 10,000 or I can afford the 20,000. If you take a child who is 15 years old, you're adding them on your policy. For 10,000, you only pay $3.50. $3.50. You increase that cover to 20,000, you only pay $7 for 10,000. For 20,000. So how cheaper can it be? Work that to reduce that to daily, or how much money we spend on silly things like going for these designer Gucci's or these designer things just to create that I'm well up kind of thing without even planning for things that are important in your life. You got a parent maybe 45 years old and going for cover for 10,000, they only pay $15 for cover for 10,000. You double the cover to 20,000, they only pay $30. So if it's a couple, you say a couple, the parents 45, two of them covering 20,000, $30, that's $60. A child who is 15, $7. You are paying $67 for cover of 60,000. 60,000 Australian dollars, you're only paying $67. Then if you've got
And this
other
is per
children,
month,
they may be, oh, yeah,
Mr.
that's per
Madzingo, is
month.
that per month?
So
Okay.
that's per month. Yeah, you're only paying 67, something like $67 for a cover of 60,000 Australian dollars. So that's very, very cheap compared to how much money we waste on things that are of no value. Going into town, you see there's a sale, you end up buying things that you don't need. Those things end up in the garage or in the loft. No one uses them. It's sometimes a lack of planning that causes us these problems, that we are spending money on the wrong things. We are not protecting ourselves. We are not protecting our loved ones. So the cover is very simple. Each individual family will have a different quotation because the family dynamics will differ. From some may be a couple with 3 children, some may be a couple and they want to add parents. And the good thing with the diaspora insurance is that we accept that in the African context, in our conservative families, we tend to as a diasporan, we tend to be the cash cow for the village back home. Everyone is looking up to
Yes.
you. Christmas money, medical money, school fees money, everything money. If there's a funeral, you get to know before your brother in Harare knows that there's a funeral, because they know where the money is going to come from. So what you then find is, we say, instead of being hit by the bill when you lose someone close back home, it may be friend, brother, sister, uncles, that uncle who paid for your school fees when your parents couldn't. You want to cover them because if something happens, you say, I want to go and make sure. So you want to aid them on your policy. So we allow you to cover family members back home. your sister who is in Gokwe, Chenda, Mbuya, or Cholocho there, who doesn't even know what insurance means. We want them on the financial capital markets of the world as a risk covered there to make sure that if something happens, money is going to filter to those communities. Someone is going to provide you, someone is going to provide a cow, someone is going to provide this, and we are supporting these communities by taking these financial products we now have access to as diasporans, as people who live in first world markets. And the resentment of insurance, because I took an insurance back home, things collapsed, melted down, and I lost everything. This is, we are talking different language now. This is not back home where things are volatile. There's economic uncertainty, hyperinflation. We are talking first world. Uh, Green currency, you are covered in hard currencies, you are in a very stable economies, and you know value of
Yes.
the value for your policy going forward is more guaranteed. So there are some people who resent insurance because they once took insurance back home and they lost it. This is not the same. We are giving you value for money, and we are giving you protection for the long term. So the premiums,
Okay. Yes. So those are the
you,
premiums that you were talking
ages,
about.
those examples I gave you gives you an idea how cheap it is to get yourself
Yes.
covered. Yeah. So
Now,
I don't know whether I want to
the
add something,
difference.
but I would want to explain also the difference between life insurance and the funeral insurance, if you get me the opportunity.
Yes. So yes, I will give you the opportunity. I've just got a question before we go to you explaining the difference between life insurance and funeral insurance. There is a question that our moderator has uh, given to me here, and it looks like she's saying it's come from Facebook, and they are asking if you are Australian citizen, would the Zimbabwean government allow you to be buried in Zimbabwe without a Zimbabwean passport? Now, thank you, our moderator. I hope we are also getting the questions, the answers from Mr. Madzingo, and we can be able to type them and post them to our people on Facebook who have asked. Thank you for that.
Yeah, that's a very good question, and also a frequent last question. On our website, we've got some explanations on repatriation from Australia, repatriation from what is what's likely to be involved, and the scenario that the listener has asked there is, it happens quite commonly. You move into to Australia. Some people moved into countries and on a foreign or Malawian or something passport when they are not even Malawians. So there are different scenarios. Then when you pass, you want to be taken home, or you have lost all your paperwork, you have lost your birth certificate, you have lost your Zimbabwe ID, or you now have is your foreign identity. It is still possible to get taken home and be buried home if that's your choice. What will happen is that family members would need to go to the embassy. They sign an affidavit to say, yes, Jeff Madzingo is, we don't have any IDs, but he's Zimbabwean and he wants to be repatriated to Zimbabwe. That's all what needs to happen. Once you sign the affidavit, they give you permission to repatriate the body back home. But otherwise,
Oh,
if you've
that's
got your IDs, then you can just be repatriated. The it's simpler. But if there's no ID, no nothing, completely nothing, family members go to the embassy, sign an affidavit. That's it.
okay. But say supposedly, thank you for highlighting that. But I'm just picking up from what you have said that supposedly, if I am here and I've lived here for quite a number of years and I now have an Australian passport, but I identify as a Zimbabwean by birth and I want to go back to be buried at home. I don't have the Zimbabwean passport anymore. I'm holding an Australian passport and I'm an Australian citizen. Would there be any problems there to for me to
Yeah,
be?
the point is that if you are in that situation, you are now deceased. your Australian passport is irrelevant now.
Okay.
You are like you are as good as you are undocumented as far as the Zimbabwean government is concerned.
Yes,
So you don't
yes.
go to
Okay.
the embassy with your Australian passport to say this guy is Australian but he wants to be you throw away the Australian passport and go to the embassy to sign an affidavit.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for bringing that uh, on board and clearing that. I hope our viewer there who did ask that question has been fully answered. And thank you so much for bringing the questions on board. Now, I don't seem to have any questions currently, but okay, there's a question, sorry, that has come directly before you go on to explaining. Can I pay premiums annually? That's the question one. And then number two, if I can say I am fully paid up and happen to die, would the payment include the repayment of my cover plus additional months I did not live? So
Additional
do you want
months
me to
that I did not.
that they had not lived? Yeah, so I don't
No,
know. I
that's
think
a
they are trying.
that's not that. I think that question is a bit complex. Let me start with the annual premium, then we can do that one to put things correctly. The annual
Okay.
premium, yes, we allow people to pay up to a year in advance, and beyond a year, we don't allow people to pay premiums for more than a year in advance because it
Okay.
doesn't sit well with the regulator, and it may be flagged as a case of money laundering to say if you can afford to pay premiums up to 5 years in advance, do you really need the policy?
Okay.
Or you
Okay.
are
Yeah.
laundering money. So we allow you to pay premiums up to a year in advance maximum. After beyond that, it becomes a problem because it can be flagged for money laundering. Then the second question is there are elements of misconception of how the cover works or how this cover is not a savings plan. That's the first point. It's a pure protection policy where you are paying a premium, and the moment you start paying your premiums, you start to accumulate benefits. So why I'm saying the question seems to be inferring that this cover is a savings plan. What you are paying in is what you will get. It's
Okay.
not
So
the
I think
case.
what they are saying, Mr. Madzingwa, what I think they are trying to explain, they've
Madzingo.
text Mr. Madzingo, what they are trying to explain here, Mr. Madzingo, is because they are paid in full, right? And then they die, say July, but yet they paid up to December. Are you able to repay them
Oh,
back
I get it. I
the
get it. I
six
get it.
months?
I get it. There was also the inference that what I've paid is in a pot, and if I die out, yeah, that's a very simple and straightforward question. If let's do real figures. You've done your policy. You are now qualifying for a full payout of 50,000 Australian dollars. Then the year coming, you have paid, say your premium for the year is, say, 1,000 Australian dollars for the year, and you have paid that, then God forbid you die. The settlement will be the full cover amount 50 plus a refund of advance premiums. That's correct.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so I
Yeah.
hope our listener has been answered there, and I think they did. They are saying sweet. Thank you so much for the clarification. Now I know we are almost 3 minutes over our time, and so what I'll do is I'll ask Mr. Madzingo to explain the difference between the life insurance policy and the funeral policy, and of course, and then we will then be taking a few more questions if they are there, and then of course calling a day. And of course, I know if you want Mr. Madzingo to come back, you can always email Mbuya vaRaphy and we can always ask him to come back and give us some more information. But yes, I'll leave him to explain the difference between the life insurance and the funeral policy insurance.
Yeah, it's very, very important that we explain that and clear the misconception, because some people will be caught in situations of GoFundMe, and you say, this guy owned a house, this guy owned a beautiful car, this guy had all the Gucci's and stuff. What's wrong with their life? Some people will be caught in those situations due to misconception, not understanding how things work, not understanding how things are different, and making assumptions that when I bought my house, I was given a life insurance for 1 million Australian dollars. So I'm covered. I don't need funeral insurance. Or when I took my life cover to protect myself or my family, my life cover came with an element to say if I die, before they assess the medicals to release the money, they will give us immediate money to pay for the funeral, maybe 20,000 for the funeral, as part of the sweetener to the life cover. So there are covers that are like that. But let me start by explaining what the main purpose of a life cover is. The main purpose of a life cover is mainly anyone who has got financial dependence. It may be your spouse, your children. You need to have life cover. You need to have life cover to protect your loved ones. So life cover then plays a role of income replacement if you were to die while least you have financial dependence. Take an example, someone works in the mines in Australia there or in another sector, you make your good money, earning 100,000 Australian dollars a year. The only reason why you are earning that $100,000 a year is that you are alive and you are going to work. If you become critically ill, you will be paid for sick leave, after that you won't have any money. If you die, the employer the contract terminates, that 100,000 dies with you. But the reality is that you are not the only one dependent on that 100,000. Your children are dependent on that. Your spouse may be dependent on that. Your elderly parents may be dependent on that 100,000. You die and you get buried with that money, or that capacity to earn that money. So life cover comes in as an income replacement, when you say that if I were to die and I've got financial young children, my family will be paid a lump sum, and that lump sum will be used to replace the money that I was earning for my family. Therefore, my family will not get destitute. That's one reason for life cover, income replacement. The second reason for life cover is debt redemption. Debt redemption, where you take a life cover because you've got a house worth 1 million Australian dollars, but you also have a loan on that house for 500,000. If you were to die and the family can't pay that 500,000, the house will be repossessed and they will be kicked out. So you take a life cover to say, if I die, the insurance company should pay off the 500,000 and my family returns the house. If it's a car, again, my Range Rover, my family will not be, the car will not be retaken by the car finance company. It will be paid off by the insurance, and therefore my family can keep the asset. So you're taking life cover for debt redemption, you're taking life cover for income replacement. The third reason why some people will take life cover is tax planning, inheritance tax planning, where you take a life cover so that if your family, your estate is hit by a big inheritance tax bill, the life cover money pays in and replaces the money that has been taken by the taxman. So three reasons why you take a life cover. But the key thing then becomes, with a life cover, because of those big amounts, it's medically tested. You fill in a 30-page form to ask you about yourself, your medical history, your family medical history. Has anyone between your siblings, parents died of a major organ problem, heart attack, cancer, things like that? So when you die, they don't immediately give you the money. They do medical underwriting on death. They write to your hospital. They want to know your medical history. They want to know your medical cause of death. They want to know everything. That process takes time. And what they are investigating is, what did you declare when you took the policy, and what is on the file. If it turns out that you lied when you took the policy, no medical history, no medical that, then at the hospital they've got different information that may invalidate your claim. That's why they do the underwriting. Then the sweetener that comes with some life covers is that when you die, they will immediately give you a portion of the money to cover the funeral. That does not necessarily make a life cover a funeral policy, because most life covers that people have are called term assurance. You are covering yourself for 25 years, 30 years, or for a given period. And once that year, 25 years or 30 years expires, the life cover itself is expiring. The sweetener funeral policy on that life cover is also expiring. And you realize that I took this life cover when I was 40, now I'm 65, the life cover is expired, the funeral policy element on the life cover is also expired, you are now 65, you start to say, what do I do now?
Okay.
With a
Thank you
funeral
for.
policy, it does
Mhm.
not expire. That's one critical message. Your funeral policy is for life. You are covered for the rest of your life until the day you die. So it's a cover for life. It does not expire. With your funeral policy, it does not do medical underwriting. Therefore, the money will be available for the funeral. Like I said, provide proof of death. Within 24 hours, the monies are paid to any bank account worldwide. So those are the critical things that you find a lot of professionals don't have life cover, don't have, they have life cover, they think it's adequate. They don't realize that a life cover is not a funeral policy. By the time they are in their 70s or 80s, the life cover is expired. They don't no longer have cover. They now try to take a funeral policy. Because of age, it has become too expensive, and also the amounts of cover that you can take are now limited and not enough, because you did not do the thing at the correct time. So that's the main difference between a life cover and a funeral policy. Life cover, medically tested. Life cover does not pay on time. Life cover, it may, if it's a term policy, will expire and then leave you exposed in the afternoons of your life. With a funeral policy, guaranteed acceptance, immediate cash payout. With a funeral policy, no medicals on claim. Therefore, the financial intervention is on time for the funeral. Yeah, so people need to understand those differences. If you don't, in your later lives, in your afternoons, you see the problems manifesting.
Oh, wow. Hey, I've been educated today. I've really been
Mm.
educated. Honestly, viewers out there, if this has not made you to make a phone call to Mr. Madzingo as soon as we finish this talk show, then I don't know what else is going to move you out there. Because honestly, it has been said, we have been given the information. It all now relies on us to make an informed decision. And you heard, I think what was missing also, which you really explained well there, Mr. Madzingo, is the fact between the life insurance. Honestly, I was moving around and patting myself on the shoulder saying, I've got a 2 million insurance, life insurance cover, only to realize that it has its own, disadvantages, that it's something that's used, of course, to cover income, debt retention, tax purposes, and if it's a term policy, it expires. But if you go for the
Mhm.
funeral policy, you are well covered. It doesn't expire, no medical underwriting. And yeah, so honestly, let's review ourselves. Let's sit down as a family. It doesn't mean taking a funeral policy or funeral cover, it means you are saying you are going to die tomorrow. No, it only shows that you are well invested, and you are well looking after yourself, and you do
Protected.
not want to be left vulnerable. Now, there's a question before we finish off. We've just got 1 minute before we finish. And the question that has come through our moderator is, what are the contact details in Australia?
Yeah, the contact details in Australia, will share them with the moderator. Then you can reach out through them.
Okay.
I'll put. I don't know if we have time. I can put them on through to you. Then you can share them on the screen, or you can get them through Mbuya vaRaphy's office.
Okay, so what you do is you can put them through us, and we will I'll give them to the moderator, and we can, because we are still going to go through all the other questions and comments on Facebook, and we'll also try to answer them as much as we can. So if you
Yeah.
pass them through me, I'll give them to the moderator, and she will answer the questions. So yeah, the answers are coming, and we will give you the contact details for Australia. Now, I just want to
All right.
thank you all so much for
Sorry, sorry, Mbuya vaRaphy. Sorry, Mbuya vaRaphy, to
yes,
just to clarify, some people may misunderstand again. A life cover and a funeral policy are not substitute policies. They are complementary policies. I'm not asking anyone to cancel their life cover. They are complementary, they are not substitute. Thank you.
yes. They are complementary. So you can still have both. I mean, listen, with the amount of money
Correct,
that
yeah.
we spend, eating and dining in these expensive restaurants, $67 a month, I'm pretty sure this is very affordable, to be honest. Now, before we go, there's another question that has come through. Um, do premiums continue to be paid until one dies,
Yeah,
Mr.
luckily,
Madzingo?
normally with a policy, yeah, that's a good question as well. Normally, with a policy which gives you cover until you die, you also pay premiums until you die. That's the normal practice globally with any insurance company, and some those are like they're called whole of life policies. Whole of life policies. If it's a life cover, if you say I want it as a whole of life, it means that you are going to have your life cover that does not expire. You pay premiums until you die, and therefore it guarantees a liability to the insurance that if I'm covered for 1 million Australian dollars, I continue to pay my premiums even if I live to 100. When I die at 100, the $1 million has to be paid. So it gives the insurance company a guaranteed liability that we've got 1 million to pay when this guy dies, as long as they maintain their premiums. That's how it works. It's same with simple things like as long as you need car insurance, you have to keep on paying for your car insurance. With the diaspora funeral cash plan being an end of life, or what we call a final expenses policy. It's a final expenses policy, meaning it's an end of life expenses policy, or it's a funeral expenses policy. It means your payment will happen when you come to pass. So your cover has to persist until you come to pass.
Yes.
Luckily, with the diaspora funeral cash plan, we treat our customers fairly. We want to give you the best value for money. And we don't want scenarios where you are blessed with longevity and the longevity becomes a case in that later in your life you are not able to pay for your premiums, your memories failing you, you forget to pay even if you have got the money. At the age of 90, you took a policy when you were 60 or when you were 50. At the age of 90, you forget to pay. At the age of 91, you die and you get a pauper's burial because you did not pay your premiums because of old age. We want to avoid that situation. So instead of asking our clients to pay until they die, we said we want to give our clients a better deal. You only pay premiums until you hit the age of 85. If you start your policy at 60, it means you only pay for 25 years. If you start your policy at 70, you only pay for 15 years. If you start your policy at 40, you will pay for a longer time, but also what you will realize is your premiums are a lot lower than someone who is older. So it's a fairer deal for everyone. We are not saying an adult pays same premiums. An older adult pays a higher premium than a younger adult. Children pay a lot lower premiums, even on the based on the examples that I gave you. So that's how it works. We treat our customers fairly. We want to avoid a situation where you fail to pay in the afternoons of your life, die without your policy, and you could get a raw deal. So if you are blessed with longevity, you hit 85, irrespective of when you start the policy, you stop paying. We give you free cover for the rest of your life.
Wow. Thank you so much. This has been very interesting and an eye opener, I think, not to just myself, but I think to most of us out there, viewers. If you are on Facebook, thumbs up and some loves and likes to say, yes, this you have found this very informative. And so, thank you so much. The reality of circumstances are fluid. This is not me saying that, this is Mr. Madzingo saying it. And so, because our reality of circumstances are fluid, and also as first generations here in the diaspora, emotional fixation will at some point in time die. So remember, taking the funeral cash policy from Diaspora Insurance Corporate, it means you have done yourself a big favor, because it is a transnational cover. So you because we are transnational citizens, so this cover really knows no border, no boundaries. So that's the advantage of it. And so please, let's sign up. If you haven't, consider to do this. It's only for our good. It's a diasporan funeral policy made for diasporians. And so, last words, Mr. Madzingo, to our viewers.
Yeah, the last word is just to say our clients are our pride, and we really want to thank you as we close 2023 going into the new year. Exciting things are happening in the new year. We are increasing the Australian cover to make sure that our clients get a fairer deal in terms of making sure that their cover is suitable to 50,000 Australian dollars. Then we are also launching new products in the new year that we'll be announcing. More specifically, we are launching some group policies and group schemes. So those companies who employ a lot of qualifying nationalities can also look at covering their employees. So we are going to be sharing a lot of information on those products in the new year. The year is gone, and I also want to thank our team, different teams who help our clients. But it is you, the clients, who make us great and give us the capacity to intervene and help so many bereaved families and change people's realities. Our work is not just work, it's a calling, and we keep on going the extra mile, encouraged by our clients and the support of people who do so much work for the community, like Mbuya vaRaphy. We are stronger as a community by coming together, and we are stronger as a community when we work together and support each other and give each other pointers to say, this, let's do this, this, let's do this, this, let's do this. It's a common solution for the common good of everyone. So
Yes.
thank you so much to the listeners for tuning in. We appreciate your time, and we want to thank you for tuning in. Spread the word. Let's help each other get the protection that they need, the correct protection that they need. And we wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and a prosperous New Year as well. So thank you for tuning in, and thank you for the
Me,
moderators, everyone working in the background to make this happen. We appreciate it. Thank you.
thank you. But before you go, Mr. Madzingo, it is Mbuya vaRaphy. We keep it real. There is a question that has been dropped, and I hope you will have time
Yeah,
to just answer it a minute or so.
yeah, no
Someone is
problem, no
asking,
problem.
roughly, how many relatives can come for the funeral in Australia with a 50,000 cash plan?
It's a difficult one. Depends really. If you choose to be sent off in Australia, your cost of funeral in Australia, then it deciding how many relatives you want to apply for visa to come for the funeral. I suppose it's a more of an immigration question to say, would immigration believe or accept that you want to bring in 10 people for the funeral in Australia, or you want to bring in 20 people for the funeral in Australia? But I don't think there's a fixed answer. There's no fixed answer. Equally, you would find if someone passes in Australia, passes on in Australia, and they want to be buried home. I've seen situations where more than 10 people travel to Zimbabwe for the funeral. So either way, it's. I don't think the immigration would say, you are bringing in too many people for the funeral. Some families are big. You may be in a family where you have 10 siblings, and you say, I want my sibling. The siblings are coming for the funeral. Who I don't see how immigration can say, some siblings can't come. So I don't think it's a question that has got a fixed answer. It just depends on the situation and what the immigration would believe it's realistic.
Okay. No, thank you
In
for that.
terms
I
of
hope
funding, I
our
think the fund.
Okay, thank you. I hope you've been answered there, our valued audience. Now, also just to wrap up, thank you so much, everyone. And I just want to also let you know, to those that might have missed out when we started, Mr. Madzingo was saying there are applications open to those that are wanting work. He for as sales rep or independent sales executives or brand ambassadors. So these are the jobs that are available to those that are wanting to join this multi-million corporate, and that is coming up to 12 years now in existence. So we just want to thank you so much. It has been really an honor and an opportunity, and we've really been honored to have you. And it's been really difficult to get hold of Mr. Madzingo because he's been going up and about towards the end of this year. But we thank God that we managed to get this time. But we hope and trust that you are going to come back later on in the year, in the new year, and have you come and tell us the new things that you will have started. But thank you so much. A shout out to my mom who just arrived, I think, 2 days ago from Zimbabwe. She's in New Zealand. Mama Vachinjanja, welcome to Mbuya vaRaphy talk show maiyo. Tinotenda nekutipa mukana wekuti zvara kuti tikwanise kuita mabasa atiri kuita aya, saka tinotenda mama. Thank you. A Merry Christmas for New Zealand. A shout out to everyone who's busy shopping for Christmas. Be safe. Do not overbuy. Remember, it takes, a kind heart to heal a wound that only compassion can. So be safe. Continue to give love. It's more about the gesture than the price of the gift. So take care, stay safe, and we'll meet again next year. That's when we are coming back. We are taking a short break on the talk show, and we'll be back on the last week of January. So take care and stay safe. Thank you so much, Mr. Madzingo. God bless you. And to the team
Thank you.
and to the moderators, thank you so much, Big Lit. Technologies behind the scene, thank you for making vaRaphy great and making the show always shine. And it's because of your big brains behind the scenes there. So thank you so much, Big Lit. Thank you. Our moderators, thank you, everyone. The vaRaphy is a big team behind the scenes. Titi, Tinashe, everybody else, thank you guys. This would not be possible this year without your hard work. So thank you so much and God bless you. Bye.
Keeping it real.
Mbuya vaRaphy.
Diaspora Insurance. Peace of mind guaranteed.
Easy Crew Entertainment.
Merry Christmas from Mbuya vaRaphy.
Keeping it real.
Mbuya vaRaphy.
Hi, my name is Nano, and what I enjoy about Christmas is spending time with my family and celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ. Also, the presents are an added bonus. My name is Shinge, and what I like about Christmas is spending time with my family and friends and enjoying yummy food. I also like receiving gifts. Thank you so much for listening.
Personally, I think that Christmas is about giving, sharing, and receiving. Christmas is also about remembering the birth of Jesus Christ.
Christmas is all about the birth of Christ and the joy it brought to the world, and it's also about celebrating his kindness, his joy, and his teachings that he did show to everyone. And also, as well as Christ being a spirit protecting us all year round, not just during Christmas time, all the time. I was just doing that Jesus is always loving us and protecting us wherever we go.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Christmas is a time when you spend time with your family and friends and spread gifts.
Christmas is a time where you spread joy and love.
Also, Christmas does mean to celebrate and have fun and just to become closer with your family and friends, because Christmas is all about love and joy and all about grief and depression. That is the best day of the whole entire year, to celebrate Jesus and to celebrate that you've made it for the whole year, even though you've been through so much.
And I'll just like to say Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to every single one of you. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and a Happy Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Yes, all of you.
Hey, remember this Christmas, be kind, because your kindness can reach a wound that only compassion can heal. So let's be generous with our smiles and spread the love this Christmas.
Making you through with Mbuya vaRaphy.
Easy Crew Entertainment.
Keeping it